Welcome to the definitive UFO news show where we dig into the biggest UFO headlines, the fight for disclosure, and the push for transparency. This isn't just news, it's real discussion. We break down the stories, examine the possibilities, and explore the unanswered questions in the search for the truth. No political spin, no biased narratives, just the facts, the analysis, and yes, the conversations that move the needle. I'm your host, Mr. Rob G. It is time to dig in. Coming in on a late night, right? Coming in on a late night. We had some technical difficulties earlier today, and I want to make sure we still get this show out because I think it kind of hits, especially with a lot of the news that has come up as of today. Was going to push it off another day or two, but it's like, you know what? Let's go ahead and get this one in because I think it's very important. This current conversation is part of the current conversation that we're having within the community right now. So I definitely want to thank everybody for coming in. I know we kind of sprung this one on you, so don't anticipate too many people to be rushing in at the moment. But catch it on the replay if you can, because this is going to be a good one. We're going to be talking about authoritarianism versus UFO disclosure. And I've had this conversation before on this channel. And, I think it's really fitting as far as just looking in to the perspective on how these two things could be related in some way, if you could even think about that, right? How could these two things be related? We're going to look into some possibilities, have some fun with it, and as we always do right here on the definitive UFO news show. So once again, do appreciate you guys coming on in and joining us here. Let me go ahead and I know we had a couple people that popped in on this late night, just kind of jumped in here. Kitty Catty Whack, appreciate you showing on up. Maggie M10 as well. Thank you for showing on up here. Yeah, this is like I said, impromptu. I kind of pushed it out for a day or two, but too important, especially with some of the other things that have been talked about here lately within the UFO community. If you're here for the first time or if you're returning, we'd appreciate if you hit that like button. Go ahead and leave us a comment. That's very important nowadays in this whole YouTube world, that you do things, interacting is coming in and, chatting in the chat, which is fine. But please leave a comment. Just say it was good, it wasn't good, just something that lets YouTube know that our viewers are also interacting with the content. That would be awesome. I know last time I checked, and I'm going to look again because we are growing in subscribers here slowly but surely. And last time I checked, and I'm going to check again, we're at a weird number. You always hate to hit a number like this, but let me go ahead and double check where we might be right now. I know last time I checked, yeah, we're still there. We're at 666 on subscribers. So hey, if you could, let's get us to 667, because 666 is not a great number. So let's go ahead and try to go ahead and get us higher up the ladder on that. We do appreciate everybody coming on in. Let me go ahead and bring our slides up here for the show here. Yeah, we're going to be doing all kind of good stuff here, as we are as well bringing back the science fiction, science fact. We're doing all that here on this show, and spoiler alert, is going to be War of the Worlds. But let me go ahead and jump back to the beginning of the slides here. We have, all right, we have the caller number like we always do. This is something that you can put in your phone. We recommend that you do because it is a live line. It actually connects 24/7. You can call it at any time from wherever you're at. Lock it in your phone. Your phone holds like unlimited amounts of contacts. So just add this one in there as well. For the social dig, that is 856-843-3444. That is 856 the dig. If you happen to be outside the United States, you know the routine. You got to dial 001 first. Then 856-843-3444. That's 001-856 the dig. We would appreciate if you do that, because you can actually call. You can leave a voicemail talking about maybe your UFO experience, something that you've seen that was weird. If you've taken a picture of something, you can actually send the message right through that number, and we'd be glad to show it on this show. You could also just call and say hi sometimes. Why? Because it's a cool thing to do. It's a nice thing to do. I would call you. Call me. You can call me sometimes and just say, "Hey, how you doing, Rob?" And I'll reply back to you, "Hey, however I'm doing at the moment." It's not always good though, so be warned. It's not always good. As we go ahead and get further on into the show here, we're not going to be here for too long, but I did definitely want to make sure that we touched on a couple things based on what's going on in the world. Memberships are available. Become a social soldier today. You can do that by clicking the link in the description of any of our videos that we have here on this channel. It is also appreciated, and we love to have you on as a member, because what it does is it allows us to raise the bar on these types of shows. I like to bring you a great presentation, and I want to continue to do that and do it better and better and better. And that's what we commit to doing here. And if you've been here for a while, then you know that's exactly what we've done. Raise the bar on our quality of content here, as well as I just said a moment ago. We're at 666 subscribers, which is it's a bad number. So if you haven't subscribed, please consider hitting that subscribe today. Let's get us off of that number and even higher as we go on our road to 1,000 subscribers. Once we hit 1,000 subscribers, I think we can take off from there. I plan on doing some YouTube promotions and things that'll also help with that number here soon. But definitely tell a friend, bring him in on the conversation. 2026 is shaping up to be one of the most important years in this conversation of UFOs, alien disclosure. A lot of things are coming out, a lot of things are being confirmed, and you can't take history away from us, right? History is already there. What we've accumulated over time, and thanks to all the UFO researchers and people who put on documentaries and just have delved into the topic before we were here, right? Have led us up to the moments that we're currently experiencing, and we're blessed enough to be at a point to where we may be able to experience UFO disclosure. Just imagine, sit back for a minute and imagine that being in a moment where you may just be able to witness with your own eyes within your lifetime UFO disclosure, the confirmation of an extraterrestrial presence that has visited here to this planet, that is currently visiting here to this planet. And I always ask, is it a occupation? Is it a invasion? What is it really considered? We don't really know. We just know that we're seeing them. They're here. If you go and look at some of our previous past shows, we've talked about different scenarios, some great fun topics in the search for truth and transparency, because that's what this channel is all about. None of the BS, none of the story time. It's all about truth and transparency on this channel, getting to the answers, because that's the most important thing when it comes to the time that we spend in this conversation. So on the road to 1,000 subscribers, be glad if you brought a friend or shared this on your social medias with your friends as well. Let them know, hey, it's coming to a point to where we're all going to be talking about this at the same time. Beautiful, beautiful time to be alive. And I'm so grateful for that. So consider subscribing today, as well as, let me make sure I bring up everything here. UFO Con 2026. So this is something that I'm actually taking a part of. I was asked to join this UFO Con this year, California UFO Con to be more specific. This is going down in Burlingame, California at the Crown Plaza Hotel. This is being put on by Lorian Fenton, if you know Lorian Fenton, friend of the show, and I was grateful for the opportunity to go ahead and be on this lineup here. I'm going to go ahead and go over a few things here with you, show you who exactly is going to be also a part of this UFOCon 2026 Contact on the Bay. You're going to have scientists, researchers, and experiencers collaborating. I know there's more than 18 speakers now, but they're going to have all different types of different types of rooms and groups and displays. So if you can be there, it would be awesome. California, caufocon.com would be the website to go to. some of the speakers that will be there March 20th, 21st, 22nd. You can look for Carl Crusher, Jesse Beltran, Solaris Blue Raven, Paul Heineck, Misha Johnson, Rima LeBeau, Terry Lovelace, Courtney Marcassani, who's a really, really cool person. Also, Kathy Porter, Ron Reger, Bob Salas, Michael Schratt, Jeff Selver, Blake Sinclair, Blue Sophia Daystar. Also, we have Ryan Wood. We have me, myself, Mr. Rob G. I'll be conducting interviews at the event. Also, you have Robert Perala and Dave Scott, who will both be MCs for the night. Tickets are $159 right now for the 3-day event. You can go to caufocon.com. Would be awesome to meet you and see you there. This is going to be some really good interviews that we're going to be conducting there. They'll be exclusive to me, and I'll be broadcasting those once I get back home. I'll edit them up, and we'll be showing them here on this channel. So make sure you subscribe, hit the notification bell. There's going to be a lot of good stuff coming this year, and I would love to share it with you, and would love to see you back for future shows as well. So, getting into this really quick show here tonight, here on the Definitive UFO News Show with me, your host, Mr. Rob G. We're going to be talking about authoritarianism versus UFO disclosure. Because it's if you are, unless you've been under a rock, then you understand that there's a lot of things going on in the world right now, which are very puzzling. A lot of decisions and choices being made, and we're not going to get political, but we're just going to talk about the state of affairs as far as the world is concerned. This is the Pro Humanity channel. We care about every human being out there, regardless what walk of life you come from, who you subscribe to, doesn't really matter. It's all about humanity progressing forward, making that move. And hopefully in a moment like now, we'll get to, get together and figure out where we want to go next as humanity once the disclosure shoe drops. And that could be, truthfully, any day at the way that things are going. I know people over the years have been like, oh, it's coming, it's right around the corner. It really, there's, I wouldn't just say that, right, if it didn't really feel that way. And then we have evidence that kind of shows that we are at a point in time on this disclosure path that we've never been at before, right? So I think it holds more weight nowadays, especially when you can lay out the groundwork that has taken place. I'd say, truthfully, from the beginning, going all the way back to the original UFO researchers, but more so, it has been sped up. I would say since 2013, right, when Stephen Bassett put on the citizens hearing for UFO disclosure. That really, for me, I felt like was probably the time when things started ramping up, because it laid out the groundwork for what we see today in these congressional hearings. And then obviously a few years later, 2017, you had Lou Elizondo come out, and it really took off from there. A lot of things have been happening since then. And 2026 is getting us to a point to where we might actually be able to say to the world that aliens are amongst us and they're visiting us. Then we can figure out why. Because I think that's where we start getting into more of the important part of it. Like, why are they here? What is the purpose? What do they want? Are we going to be able to, function alongside of each other? Can we coexist? In those sorts of conversations, and we'll be having all those conversations right here on this channel. So make sure you guys are subscribed. What's next for America, right? Starting here, and everyone says, "Oh, it seems like all these things only happen in America," and I don't think that's really the case. I just think what it is America happens to be the country that leads the pack as far as technology goes. We're the world leader militarily. We, as far as democracy goes, we're a beacon for a lot of individuals around the world. They all want to come here for that particular purpose. And it seems like in this moment, democracy is under attack. And I was watching something the other day where they stated that, if America loses democracy, then that takes hope away from a lot of other countries out there who strive to have a democratic sort of government, in their own countries, and then we devolve into something that we probably don't want to see here. Now, along the way, and I know a lot of you have been frustrated, the energy is low in the world as far as um, everyone's feelings about this, and we've talked about that. How can we raise our energy levels, the frequency? Why would these things be happening? And how could so many people sit aside and allow for a lot of these things to be happening? And you already know what I'm talking about. I'm sure you watch the news every day, or social media, where you're seeing all these horrific things happening. We don't really have to go into those things. I know you know what they are. No one agrees with a lot of the things that are happening. And then I had a conversation with someone, and I asked them. I said, let's take a step back for a minute, and let's think about why. Let's think about why. Why would these things be allowed to be happening in a time where no one wants to, everyone's enjoying the democracy and the freedoms that we have here in the United States? Why would anyone want to sit back and watch those things be taken away? Right? I think that's one of the big questions that a lot of people would have. And here's what I thought as we get ready to get into this here. Here are some of the things that I thought about here. Let me go ahead and get it started with this here. All right. So I pose a question here. What would explain a nation founded on democracy switching to an authoritarian model overnight? Like, how could that even be plausible? And I did a show like about this back in, I want to say, March of 2024. You can go back in the archives on this channel, where I talked about what would be some of the things that could blur that line. Just having fun with it, just as a thought experiment, essentially, to see what would it take for uh, something that we enjoy here to all of a sudden overnight turn into something that we wouldn't want to take part in. And here's one of the few of the things I thought about. So let's take a step back for a minute. If you think about it, okay, a lot of these, let's take what we know off the table as far as the atrocities and things that are happening in the United States and around the world. Let's take a step back, just put that aside. Let's not think about that for a moment. Let's just look at a few different scenarios, right? I've always said that I think there are three different main scenarios where humanity has gets the chance to reformulate and figure out a new path forward. And a few of those things, that if you've been here, you've heard me say this before. One of those things would be a nuclear war, World War III. These One of the things that would stop everything in its tracks, and then there would be a this catastrophic moment, and then a rebuilding process afterwards, picking the pieces up, and then the questions are, how do you move forward? Not a scenario that we want to deal with at all, and we hope nothing like that is on the horizon. We hope that that wouldn't be the case. The second thing that would put us in a moment where we would have to rebuild, pick up the pieces, give us a chance to shift where we're going as a species, would be, and another thing we hope wouldn't happen, would be an asteroid impact, something just catastrophic by all circumstances, right? We know that historically asteroids wiped out the dinosaurs as far as we know. Truthfully, it could have been something else, but they attribute it to this huge asteroid that came in and essentially almost wiped everything out on the planet, right? Now, the first two options here are things that it'd be very hard to recover from, based on just on the collateral damage, right, that would take place behind either one of those events would take many, many years, and there's no guarantee that we could reformulate again after that. The third thing that would be one of the only things that I could think about, and maybe you could think of more, and if so, you can let us know, put it in the comments, would be catastrophic or imminent catastrophic UFO disclosure, right? Think of those three things. So, okay, a world war. I mean, obviously, that's something that's very plausible. It could happen, overnight, within moments. Truthfully, I don't think that nations really want to face anything like that. I think, you know, I think for the most part, even on the surface, as much as it seems like all these nations despise each other, I think the last thing they want is a nuclear war where everyone essentially loses, right? So even though it's plausible and it's something that they say the clock is close to midnight as ever, I just feel like that's probably not in the best interest of any country out there. And I just, as far as these three things go, I would probably put it at number two. Okay, so when you think about the asteroid impact, right? Truthfully, we've had if you think about the 2013 Chelyabinsk asteroid, the one that just came in over Russia, no one saw it coming in. Came in from the direction of the sun, exploded over the city, caused some damage, enough damage to wake you up to say, if this had been bigger or if this was something that had actually hit the Earth, that could have been a pretty bad situation, right? And something we wouldn't have seen coming, and something that would definitely change things, or at least shake things up pretty bad, depending on the size of the object. So when you look at those two things, what's the plausibility of that? Well, you have astronomers that say that they focused on a lot of the more catastrophic size objects out there in space, and they have track of a lot of them. I i, I think the space is too big and wide for them to make a statement like that with a surety, right? So that one is still on my list as something that I think is probably more plausible, truthfully, than nuclear war. So I don't know. Those are really close to me. So two or three, I think those could interchange between second and third. But the thing that we are currently dealing with, that we know is here because we're filming it, we're seeing it, we're having encounters. The presence has been here for at least 70, 80 years, very likely much longer than that, is the UFO presence. So I'm going to take a video here real quick because it's been talked about recently in the news, and I'm going to lay out why I feel like this is kind of important. So Obama goes on Brian Tyler Cohen's podcast here a few days ago, and to kind of backtrack a little bit, I think it was maybe 2 or 3 years ago. He went on the Corbin show, and jokingly, they asked him about UFOs, and he says there's things in the sky that we don't understand how they move, how they move so fast, how they do these different things, right? A lot of people are like, oh, okay, that's interesting that he was even willing to talk about it. Okay, so come maybe a week ago, he goes on the Brian Tyler Cohen podcast and makes a statement that we'll go ahead and play right here.
They're real, but I haven't seen them, and they're not being kept in what is it?
Area 51.
Area 51. There's no underground facility unless there's this enormous conspiracy, and they hid it from the president of the United States.
All right. So behind that statement, essentially, he was literally asked, "Are there aliens?" He says, "Yes." Okay. So on the face of it, yes, and then he kind of elaborates into he's never seen anything though within his time, and he actually made a second statement, even kind of stepping back a little bit from that, making a statement saying that there's got essentially the paraphrasing. There's got to be other things out there, and that's a literal essentially what his statement was based off of. So to kind of take a little flame out of him just saying yes, right? We know from our own experiences and things that we filmed and captured, we know that the answer yes is the correct answer, right? So, on the face of it, you could say that he confirmed essentially what we know and what we see all the time and what we've been filming and recording, that we know this to be true, and to have someone else say that is essentially you know, uh, confirming things that we have already known, right? So he didn't go into it, and I think there was a reason why that he actually made the second statement to kind of clarify that, oh, I'm just saying that there has to be life out there, and we're crazy to think that there wouldn't be life out there. And so, essentially trying to frame it as if the statement of saying, yes, aliens are here was a general statement saying that it's with the universe being so big that it has to be the case. So a funny thing was Trump actually, Donald Trump, current president, was asked about this, and then he made a statement that kind of shored up what it was that Barack Obama stated. And this is what Trump said when he was asked about that.
Barack Obama said aliens are real. Have you seen any evidence of non-human visitors to Earth?
Well, he gave classified information. He's not supposed to be doing that.
So aliens are real.
Well, I don't know if they're real or not. I can tell you, he gave classified information. He's not supposed to be doing that. He made a big mistake. He took it out of classified information. No, I don't have an opinion on it. I never talk about it. A lot of people do. A lot of people believe it. Do you believe it, Peter?
Well, the president can declassify anything that he wants to. So if
Maybe
you
I'll
want
get
to
him
make
out
an
of trouble.
announcement,
I may get him out of trouble by declassifying.
we know illegal aliens.
Yeah, illegal. Only illegals. Only illegals.
Okay, so all right. So just unpacking that, right? So he states that essentially that he may have violated or broken the confidentiality, and essentially from what he stated there makes it seem like what the statement made by President Barack Obama, former president, is a true statement. We know that it's a true statement. So then, if you have Trump saying what he just said here, saying that he breached or violated or however he worded that, essentially that more confirms that what Barack Obama said is true. I mean, we know it's true, but on the face of it, for the general public, if they're to look at that, how do they perceive that, right? How do they perceive that? Because I think Barack Obama knew that he had to kind of take a step back on that statement and kind of clear it up and make it more generalized because of the current state that we're in, where you have an authoritarian style government that will go after you for any little thing that you might say, right? So even if, and I truthfully think that Obama said yes, I think that I think that was purposely done. I think he said yes because, for one, and we'll talk about this, and we've talked about this before, confirmation of UFO disclosure is essentially something that can turn everything around as far as things that are going on right now. It can change the temperature of a lot of the negativity and things that are going on right now. So I think having an opportunity to say yes, but da 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 kind of at least puts it out there to say, I'm throwing you a bone, essentially, right? Trump goes in and kind of confirms what was said by the statement that he made. Now, here's something that I didn't, and actually, I'm going to save this last one. There was more that was said on the news, and Trump has a daughter, Laura Trump, who makes a statement talking about maybe Trump at some point, as far as information she's received, that he may step forward and say something on the matter at the right time. Okay. So that leads me into this whole conversation. Really, this show was put together before these statements were kind of compiled. All this stuff really happened earlier today. A lot of these things that I've clipped here. So it just happened to line up with the show topic and what we were going to talk about. So jumping back into the topic real quick before I play you that video. So what we have here, just take a step back and think about what's going on, and then I want to frame it in a way that maybe makes sense, right? So what would it take? Think about this. If one of those three things that we talked about earlier were on the horizon, the public doesn't know about it, the governments do. So whether you take World War III imminent, whether you take asteroid impact imminent, or whether you take imminent UFO disclosure, if the government was aware of one of those three things being on the horizon, something that could happen, how would a government set that stage, right? If they want to get ahead of something like that, how would they set that stage? There were a few things that are currently going on that I think could apply to either one of those three things. So I would think, and tell me if it makes sense or not, securing borders, right? So we see a moment in time in let me set the stage for this actually, because I did this on a different show. Just briefly, we had the drone situation last year, November of 2024, going into January 2025, like 2 month period where we had drones all over New Jersey. Government couldn't explain what they were. The new administration came in, they couldn't explain what they were, why they were there, essentially. So you think about that. You think about all of the other incidents, the video that comes out in Congress with the government shooting a Hellfire missile on UFO. So all those things happening, right? So if they knew that something was going to be imminent or something that we would find out eventually and maybe take the wrong way, or they may lose control of the citizens, either one of those things, if we knew nuclear war was going to happen, we'd go crazy. I'm sure, riot. We'd be out in the streets protesting. It'd be out of their control. Asteroid impact imminent. That was going to happen. There'd probably be a lot of looting, rioting, a lot of craziness in the streets. Alien disclosure, to find out there's going to be a percentage of the population that are going to be out there not knowing how to take this information and may act and behave in different ways. So I would think securing the borders would probably be something that would be done by a government that had this information ahead of time, knew something was going to be coming imminent. And, let's take the crazy claim or the attempt to try to take a Greenland, right? Like, sounds crazy on the face of it. Canada, 51st state, sounds crazy, right? Sounds very implausible. Nobody wants this. Nobody wants to do this. But think about it coming from the mindset of one of those three things we talked about being imminent. Would you understand a situation where a government that knew one of those three things were going to happen, saying, hey, let's make sure that the borders are going to be secure. Let's make sure that we have a barrier around the nucleus of the United States that, for anything that could be incoming once this information comes out. Once the world is aware that one of those three things is going to happen, let's make sure that we have a barrier around the United States to kind of make sure think people just don't flood in, or bad actors come in and take advantage of the moment. And a situation like that, if you understand what I'm saying, I'm just kind of spitballing here, right? Also, I think that would make sense, right? I think that would be one of the things the country would do, is say, hey, we know this bad thing is about to happen. Let's make sure we shore everything up. Let's make sure that we are kind of protected. Let's put a barrier around us because we understand what could be the fallout from this information coming out. Okay, makes sense on the face of it. Breaking off alliances, crazy, right? Doesn't make sense. Like, why would you put yourself in a situation where you turn your back on your friends, right? Friendly nations, alliances. Like, why would you do that? I think that if we're looking at it through the lens of one of these three things being something that the government knows is going to happen, then it would make sense that you would do something like that. Doesn't make it right, right? But if you're attempting to say, hey, we're going to protect this space, and we, if that means we're going to have to break off alliances and do those things, then we're just going to do that because there's either going to be imminent nuclear war, there's going to be either imminent asteroid impact, or there's going to be UFO disclosure. All three things that would set the humanity, a portion of humanity would not be able to take this, and there would be some fallout from that. It now just think about it. Think about this. This is another thing, and I said this prior to this administration coming into office. You go back and look at the show I did on March 2024. I kind of laid out a dynamic like this. This is before we even started to experience any of this. But going back a little further, the control on citizens or citizen control, right? Which would be military on the streets, martial law, right? So one of those three, again, think of one of those three options being something that a government is aware of, the public doesn't know yet, something incoming and imminent. You know that if the public finds out before the government is able to act, then you'll have chaos in the streets, right? So is it easier for a government to control that chaos or contain that chaos after the public finds out? Or is it easier for them to proactively put things in place, put measures in place to be able to handle a moment where the news comes out and now everyone's, going for self at that point? If you were the person running this said country, would that be a step that you would take to say, hey, I know the people are gonna a good portion of the people are gonna go crazy once this news comes out. Maybe we should kind of put some pieces in place to kind of make sure that this doesn't get out of control, right? This is just not saying that this is what's going on, but just think about all these things together. And I think they just really align with things that a government might do if they knew that something imminent was incoming, whether it was World War III, nuclear war, asteroid impact, or the most likely thing, imminent UFO disclosure, right? Okay, continuing. I think another thing you would see is bunkers for the powerful and the elite. All of a sudden, bunkers being built everywhere by people who can afford them. And I think you've seen a rush of that happen lately where you have all these billionaires all of a sudden building bunkers. You have in Washington, D.C., you have the president currently building a bunker or sharing up a bunker under this new ballroom or whatever is being built, right? At the same time, and most recently in the news, because I guess they were trying to stop the progress on it, this political thing going on. And I think one of the things that the president stated is that if they stopped them from doing it, it would go against national security, or that his life would be in danger, right? So, and I'm sure there's other bunkers. Obviously, they take the government into for government for continuity of government, right? But for some reason, you need the bunker right where he's at, right? So I need to be able to go into this bunker immediately, right? So that just makes you feel like, do you have information of something that's imminent, and that the public just isn't aware of it yet? Does that explain how you could have a group of people around you that are just complicit and okay with decisions that are the type of decisions that are being made that on the face of it look like authoritarianism? Just think about that for a moment. Just let this thing in. Think about that for a moment. All those different things we just talked about which are horrific, horrible things. They overturned democracy, but is it, the question is, it never made sense, and it still doesn't make sense. If you take all these elements away, the three options we talked about, then none of the things that are happening make sense. That a person would just want to overthrow a democracy, it just doesn't make sense on the face of it. So you have to ask yourself, is it being done for a reason? And the only reasons that I could think of would be one of those three things, right? So you got to ask yourself this, and this is the question that I have. Is this true authoritarianism for the purpose of overthrowing democracy? Is it just on the face of it? I think a lot of people feel that's what it is. That is just an individual that has his mindset on overturning democracy here in the United States, and it very well seems that that's the case if you have been watching anything that's been happening around the United States lately. Or is it preparation for you? And I'm saying UFO disclosure because I think that's the most plausible thing out of the three that we talked about, that we already know is not just plausible. We know that it's actually happening. We know that these UFOs are here. We know that we have all these experiencers that are having these experiences. We know we are having abductions that are happening based on experiencer accounts. We know that we are having crash retrievals. We are retrieving vehicles that have crashed, and a lot of people feel like we're the ones making them crash. We are retrieving extraterrestrial bodies in some of those cases. We're not necessarily giving them back to the beings that they belong to. We have shown in previous conversations that we have that there's conflict there between governments around the world and the extraterrestrial presence based on the UFO Hellfire missile video that was released. It showed an interaction between military and UFOs. We're firing, and for the question was, what happened to lead up to the point to where we fired on this UFO? Did it do something first to prompt this, or were we the aggressors? Right? We played a video with Tom DeLonge in the past, where Tom DeLonge talks about being in Italy, and these UFOs are in the ocean, I guess considered USOs, firing on high energy weapons on buildings off the coast. I think it was Italy, catching fire. A lot of these buildings catching fire. So they go out in a helicopter to observe or try to get more information on what these things are. One of the objects pops out the water and shoots the helicopter. It's a civilian helicopter, right? So we show aggression from both sides of the table. The UFO Hellfire missile just happens to have taken place October 30th of 2024. 3 weeks after that, we have the beginning of the UFOs over New Jersey. For 2 months straight, these anomalous objects just sitting over a neighborhood or over a city, over states for a period of 2 months straight. So is that a reaction to the military aggression from a few weeks earlier? You got to ask yourself that. And leading into this year, are there is it ramping up to a point to where a government knows, okay, something is going to happen here, imminent, when it comes to this, when it comes to this topic, when it comes to the presence. They, on the background, they're doing this back and forth thing, which is aggressive. And do they know that there's a moment where it'll probably be all out in the open, or the things that they're doing will be happening out in the open, right? Because if it was, then you look at some of the things that are happening, and you would say, okay, those things could be related directly to the fact that they are aware that something is imminent and upcoming, right? It just makes sense. And then to have these things happen today or earlier today with these statements coming out, and then this one was even more important. This one kind of led more into because I've always said, okay, with the position that the government is in here in the United States, more specifically the president of the United States. There are a lot of things out there that are shining a bad light on this president. And I've always said that I felt like before, once this president has his back against the wall, which is it almost is at that, it seems to be that is getting close to that point, that this president might pull that UFO card or play that UFO card in order to kind of distract, but also at the same time confirm the UFO presence, really, because that's really what would be happening, right? A lot of people said, "Oh no, I don't know." I've been in round tables and panel discussions where I brought that up. Like, would this president play the UFO card in order to get himself out of a particular predicament? But then, it's not just a card; it's actually confirming or at least bringing to the table the fact that we already know that there is a UFO presence here, and kind of bringing in disclosure, right? So a lot of people said, no, I don't know. And then this was said earlier today. So let me go ahead and play this, which I think kind of more so confirms it, and then makes a lot of what we're saying here a lot more plausible. Definitely something to think about. Let's take a look.
Hill Republican tonight is telling me that he is reading this as the president, all but confirming what Barack Obama said, that aliens are indeed real. So we followed up with the White House here. We asked them several questions. We wanted to know what part of Barack Obama's comments did the president feel were classified? Was it the part where he says that he believes in aliens, or was it the part that they were not in Area 51? They were also asked if the DOJ was going to look into these comments, perhaps because they were classified. The White House told us there's nothing to add to the president's comments tonight. Brett, all of this comes as the president's daughter-in-law, Laura Trump, told a podcast this week that the president has a speech prepared about extraterrestrial life that he will give at the right time. Listen.
We've kind of asked my father-in-law about this. We all want to know about the UFOs, or we all want to know what's going on. And he played a little coy with us. I have just heard kind of around that, I think he's actually said, I think my father-in-law's actually said it, that there is some speech that he has that I guess at the right time, and I don't know when the right time is, he's going to break out and talk about, and it has to do with maybe some sort of extraterrestrial life.
And Brett, the White House press secretary, Caroline Leavitt, you'll remember this week, was asked about Laura Trump's comments, and she said a speech on aliens would be news to me, but we are expecting more reaction from the Hill in the coming hours and days.
Okay. All right. So let's think about this. This is also a tweet that Donald Trump posted earlier today as well, kind of in reference to all this. Based on tremendous interest shown, I will be directing the Secretary of War and other relevant departments and agencies to begin the process of identifying and releasing government files related to alien and extraterrestrial life, unidentified aerial phenomena, and unidentified flying objects, and any and all other information connected to these highly complex but extremely interesting and important matters. So, here's the theory. Here's the theory here. The fact that Laura Trump, so his daughter-in-law, states that he had informed her at some previous time that he had some speech prepared for this moment coming up, that this was going to be something that he was going to address. Remember, Marco Rubio, who was on the UAP, the Congressional Committee, is now the Secretary of State, is there with Trump all the time. Obviously, he's talked about this with him a lot, and maybe told him, even for political reasons, this would be a good thing for you to do. But at the same time, I think what may have happened here is Barack Obama being asked about the UFO presence, and being that he gave an answer that was more outside of just the normal answer that a politician or presidential former president would give. And you've seen different cases, different presidents have been asked the same question. They're always, they never give a straight answer, but they never say just no, right? And I think Barack Obama may have, based on his answer, kind of tipped the hand on this, right? And instead of allowing Obama to be the one to come out and essentially confirm this political back and forth stuff, so Trump feels like, okay, well, I'm going to step forward and I'm going to say what I need to say. But I think maybe this is something, if Barack Obama doesn't say anything and the UFO topic isn't brought up to in within that presidential circle, in the news, then I think that this is something that was set or supposed to happen at a later time, which could line up with everything that's happened thus far in the whole idea that maybe a lot of the stuff that's being done is in preparation for some moment coming up later, which is also what this speech that this Laura Trump talks about as being something that is supposed to be something that's happening sometime in the future. And you have to ask yourself, if you just think outside the box, it makes sense. So if you don't know what we're talking about, again, this is the statement that was made by Obama, and then we'll play Trump's response to it. Here we go.
They're real, but I haven't seen them. They're not being kept in. What is it?
Area 51.
Area 51. There's no underground facility unless there's this enormous conspiracy, and they hid it from the president of the United States.
All right, and then once again, Donald Trump talking his response to that.
Attention this week. Barack Obama said that aliens are real. Have you seen any evidence of non-human visitors to Earth?
Well, he gave classified information. He's not supposed to be doing that.
So aliens are real.
Well, I don't know if they're real or not. I can tell you, he gave classified information. He's not supposed to be doing that. He made a big mistake. He took it out of classified information. No, I don't have an opinion on it. I never talk about it. A lot of people do. A lot of people believe it. Do you believe it, Peter?
The president can declassify anything that he wants to. So if you want to make an announcement,
I may get him out of trouble by declassifying.
We know illegal aliens are real.
Yeah, illegal. Only illegals.
All right. And then to ending off with this statement that he put out, obviously, after that conversation you saw, based on the tremendous interest shown, I'll be directing Secretary of War and other relevant departments and agencies to begin the process of identifying and releasing government files related to alien extraterrestrial life, unidentified aerial phenomena, and unidentified flying objects, and any and all other information connected to these highly complex but extremely interesting and important matters. And this is what I'll say. I am not here today saying that this is the reason why these things are happening. It could simply be an authoritarian, president just trying to overthrow democracy, essentially, which on the face of it is what it looks like. Could not be related to announcing anything that has to do with anything imminent coming up. It could just simply be the plans of one particular man wanting to do this, for whatever reason this person has to do this, which doesn't make sense at all. But then it very well could be, once again, if you didn't know that any of these things were on the horizon to be talked about, it could literally be, and we'll just put this president aside, just any government or country that has information of something imminent happening that would be something, big enough, a big enough thing to kind of shake up the normal day-to-day of the citizenship, then you could see some of these things that we listed being things that they might do proactively to kind of get ahead of something like that, right? It just makes sense. Right? And then we had no prior confirmation or idea that Trump had this speech or something that he was going to eventually come out and say, I mean, we thought it'd be the best thing to do, right? Because if the information is there and it's being validated already in so many other ways, and you have China out there, you have Russia, other countries that could be the ones to step out first and kind of make statements in regards to the presence of the extraterrestrial presence, then it could also make sense that someone like the current president here might want to do that first. So it could be totally unrelated to the atrocities and the horrible things that are happening in an event to kind of overthrow a democracy, or it could be saying, and here's one of the things that doesn't make sense to me, right? So normally, and we'll just, because I don't care what side of the political spectrum any of you are on. I don't really like politics at all. I think it's all smoke and mirrors and a bunch of BS. But if there was ever, and history is a good thing always to lean up on, right? In order to look at things that are currently going on. If you just look historically, if there was a one man, president or not, that had this ulterior plan to do something dastardly and totally against like the Constitution and things like that, there would usually be the people around that person would usually that didn't agree with what was going on would usually quit or leave, right? And then they'd be replaced by someone else. But you're not seeing that. One of the people that is right there and hasn't decided to leave is Marco Rubio, who's very informed on the whole UFO subject, and he's not leaving. Even though this could be something that would affect him politically years after this president is out of office. And so you have to ask yourself, are these people just willing to throw their careers down the drain for one man's vision? Or is it something that they're all aware of? They've sat down and had a conversation on, this is the thing coming, the imminent thing incoming. This is the reason why we're going to have to do these things that are not going to be very popular. And then that's why those individuals choose to stay with the plan, right? Because normally you'd see people leaving left and right, resigning, resignation, I quit. But you're not seeing that. And I'm just like, that's weird to me, because these people have political futures, or they aspire to have, more things going on in politics after this administration. So why would they stick with that plan, knowing that there's a time limit on this here as far as this administration? This has to end at some point, and you could be subject to legal things down the line. Why would you sit there and subject yourself to that instead of saying, you know what, I don't agree with this, I resign? And it's just things like that that make me think about, what is the conversation being had behind closed doors? And it just makes more sense that of why some of the things we talked about could be some of the motivation for some of the things that we're seeing. So, with that being said, like I said, it could be that, or it could just be one man's vision to overthrow democracy, which very well could just be the case. And UFOs has absolutely nothing to do with it. World War III has absolutely nothing to do with it. Impending asteroid impact has absolutely nothing to do with it. But I think, it's a good thing to talk through, because if you find out later that this was the case, at least we've talked about it, right? So, with that being said, I think I just wanted to kind of get that out there, because I thought it was important, especially, I had this show set up over a week ago. I created the show, and we are going to talk about this topic, the scenario, but then the news that came out today kind of made it a more relevant conversation to have. So just so happened that with the news that came out today, it kind of added to what it was we were discussing today. So with that being scared, with that being with that being said, and I was just reading this comment, Jerry Keith. I don't know if you're talking to somebody in the chat. Are you scared? Ooh, spooky. Yeah, no, it's and this is what the next show is going to be about. The next show is going to be about you know, why we need disclosure, why disclosure has to happen. We're on the path to get there, and why we really need to have disclosure. That's going to be our next conversation on the next show. But I wanted to get this one out there. I thought it was very important. I know a lot of people are just covering the, oh, Barack Obama talked about aliens. I don't think that by itself is so important as, let's look at the, a lot of people are racking their brain on why certain things are happening. We're not understanding. It doesn't make sense. A lot of things aren't adding up, right? That you'd have one man that would want to just overthrow democracy and just destroy it in everyone's face, and it just doesn't make sense that someone would be able to get away with that. And I think talking about this other thing here kind of at least makes it make more sense on why, right? But I'll digress. We'll go ahead and let that simmer. It's something for you to think about, right? Either way it goes, what side of the conversation you stand on. That's why we have these conversations. These are conversations to get you thinking, conversations to move the needle. With that being said, we're going to go ahead and jump into. We have a segment that I've actually recently brought back, and we'll be doing on this show pretty often here, which is our science fiction to science fact movie edition. We'll go ahead and jump into that right now. And what we do here is we showcase a science fiction to science fact movie. And I'll kind of explain what that means. So essentially, you have a point in time where, everything was science fiction until the realization that UFOs were a real thing. This thing is actually happening. We are experiencing something that we don't understand. And then now that you have seen these things, you have all this confirmation that the presence is here. You have all these now presidents talking about the UFO conversation. And you go back and watch these movies that you once thought were science fiction, you look at them differently through this new lens. So our movie for tonight is going to be War of the Worlds, the version with Tom Cruise from 2005. Whenever you go back and watch a movie like this, like I said, in 2005, when you first watched this, you may have felt like, oh, there's no way in the world that this is going to happen. This is just a really fun movie to watch. Aliens aren't here. But then once you realize that actually they are here, they're craft in the sky that we don't understand. And it makes something like this more possible or more plausible, a scenario like this. So with that being said, War of the Worlds 2005 is our science fiction to science fact movie of the night. And with that being said, we're going to get ready to get up out of here really, really quickly here. I just wanted to make sure that we cover these things here. Authoritarianism versus UFO disclosure. I think it was a great conversation. Once again, what's next for America? I guess we'll have to wait and see. I feel like Disclosure Day, the movie, which is something we're keeping track of here, we have from today 113 days left until the premiere of Disclosure Day. And we'll, as things come out, I'm sure Steven Spielberg will be doing interviews, and the cast will be doing interviews. We'll get more information about the movie as we get closer to this date. This is going to fly by. Before you know it, we're going to be talking about what we thought about the movie and did it move the needle. As we know, Close Encounters of the Third Kind was definitely a movie that got a lot of things right, based on the advisors. J. Allen Hynek was one, Jacques Vallée. These are people talking that have valid information on the phenomena, and Spielberg was able to lean on that and interpret that in the film. And a lot of those things that he showed in the film stand true today, as far as when you talk to experiencers today. orbs, all these different things, the sunburn on the face, all these different things line up with a lot of experiences that are happening today. And I hope he did the same. I anticipate that he did do the same on this film. So we're going to keep an eye on that. Can't wait for that to come up. And also, we are once again on the road to 1,000 subscribers. I was looking at the numbers earlier. I don't know where we're at. Maybe we lost some subscribers talking about politics or that. I don't know. But I know last we checked, we were at like 666, which is not a great number. So we would love to have you guys subscribe today. If you're not a subscriber, consider doing that, hitting the notification bell. We're on the road to 1,000 subscribers. We have tough conversations sometimes, right? Sometimes it's things like the current state of where we're at in politics, but not necessarily covering politics. Some people might feel some kind of way about that. But we don't subscribe to any side, any political side, because I think it's all BS. Think we need to blow it all up and start from the beginning, and maybe have people in there that specifically care for human beings, regardless what side you're on. I think a prerequisite needs to be you care about humans, you care about your fellow human being, and maybe we build back up from that. We are in a moment in time right now, which humanity has a chance to restructure what the way that we do things and the direction that we move in. And I feel that it's very important that we consider doing that and taking advantage of this moment, because it is something that will affect your grandchildren, my grandchildren, great grandchildren, and more down the line. Some of the decisions and conversations that we have today. That's why this show is so important. And please make sure that you share this show with others. And we'll be having more deep conversations as we take this road to disclosure, always on the search for truth and transparency. And let me know what you thought. Please take time, if you wouldn't mind, to hit the like button on this video. Also, please consider leaving a comment. It's awesome. It lets YouTube know that you interacted with the show. And regardless how you feel about it, leave a comment. We'd appreciate it. And with that being said, we do have memberships available on this page. You become a social soldier today. You can do that by clicking the link on the description of any video that we have on this channel. Just helps to make this a better experience. We always are raising the bar visually and production wise. So we'd appreciate any help there that you're able to give, as well as the social Discord, which we're going to get cracking this year. I already have it up. It should be active. You should be able to go in there and join. It's a free social Discord where you can come in there and talk 24/7 with other people from the community. And we'd appreciate you guys doing that. Also, again, the phone number here at Social Dig, which is 856-843-3444, or that's 856 the dig. If you happen to be outside the United States, like Maggie M10 is, you can dial 001 first, then 856-843-3444, or that's 001-856 the dig. Last note here is UFO Con 2026 contact on the Bay, March 20th, 21st, and 22nd, Crown Plaza in Burlingame, California, which is essentially South San Francisco, California. We'll have researchers, experiencers talking there. I will be there as well, so I'd love to see you guys come on out. Go to caufocon.com to get more information on this. Once again, the speakers that we will have there, we'll have these speakers and more. So Carl Crusher, who has like 5 million subscribers on his channel or more, something like that. So we have him, Jesse Beltran, Laris Raven Blue, Paul Hynek, Misa Johnson, Rima LeBeau. Let's see, Kathy Porter, Ron Rager, Robert Salas, Michael Schratt, Jess Selver, Blake Sinclair, Blue Sophia, Day Star. We also have Ryan Wood. We have myself, Mr. Rob G. I'll be conducting interviews of the speakers there, so make sure you're there. Also, MCs for the night will be Robert Perala and Dave Scott. You can get your tickets, $159 for 3 nights at caufocon.com. We would love to see you there. Be awesome to talk to you guys, as well as the After Hours radio show. Yes, right here on the Social Dig. New episodes, we're setting them all up. It just depends on the streaming service that I'm going to use for this. The one I'm using now isn't really conducive to doing that show, so I'm trying to line up a different streaming service. But then that's where the memberships come in, membership, super chats, things like that, that would allow us to be able to do, use these other more expensive streaming services. So, with that being said, this has been another episode of the Definitive UFO News Show, guys. Thank you for coming on in and hanging out with me. I wanted to make sure we did one of these today because a lot of the other news came on in today that kind of lined up with the topic that we had set up. So I think it made for an awesome conversation here tonight. You guys are awesome. ABWC asking, are you in Alabama? You're in Alabama. I am in California, sunny California. Actually, it rained today, which it never rains. It hardly rains in Southern California, about an hour north of LA, kind of in the desert. So it's much needed rain. We love that we got it today, but it's very rare, and we're getting ready for some really hot stuff coming down the pipeline. With that being said, guys, fantastic show. Share this with people, please. And once again, hit the like button. Let's get our subscriber numbers up. And yeah, we'll be doing this again soon. Hit the notification bell so you know next time we go live. I really appreciate you guys coming in. This is a wrap for the Definitive UFO News Show. We've uncovered the stories, challenged the narratives, and ignited the conversation. Guys, the truth is out there, and we're just getting started. I'm Mr. Rob G, and all I ask of you is to stay curious, stay fearless, and keep digging because the answers may be closer than you think. Have a great rest of your night, guys. Talk to you soon. Take care.